morning, everybody. It's the Outlaw John Rocha here with my instant reaction and slight spoiler review for this episode 9 of House of the Dragon. This one put the hooks in me, but good. So much to talk about on this one. The Green Council. The king is dead. King Viserys has passed on, and we're dealing with the ramifications of all of that. As I say, this is my reaction. This is a spoiler review. So if you haven't seen the episode, turn back now. I might even spoil some things in the book. So I'm doing this solo because the boys have expressed to me on the Geek Buddies that they're not the biggest fan of me spoiling some stuff ahead of time. I have read stuff. I've gone ahead and read some stuff here that goes on with these characters. So sometimes I drop little spoilers in here connected to the book. So just letting you know ahead of time before we jump into this one. Well, this one had so much going on with it, didn't it? I mean, although it was a lot of intrigue and moving around, and once again, chess pieces moving around on the board, you felt like you were on the edge of your seat with the tension on this one, as Alliscent is now taking what she thinks is Viserys' final words, or maybe what she's convinced herself to be Viserys' final words, and maneuvering to have Aegon put on the throne. This pleases Otto like crazy, except what we get here throughout this entire episode is the battle between how Alicent wants to do it and how Otto wants to do it. Otto wants to kill Rhaenyra, or Otto wants to arrest and hang anybody who would be willing to tell Rhaenyra that the king is dead so she can arm her forces and lay claim to King's Landing and lay claim to the Iron Throne. Rhaenyra wants to take it slow, grieve the loss of her husband, figure out how to put Aegon on the crown, and then offer terms to Rhaenyra. We see that. So that's the battle throughout this entire episode, is both of them kind of moving around and using what they have, what power they have, to try to put themselves in position. Clearly, Otto Hightower is obsessed with sitting on the throne. The throne is like the ring in Lord of the Rings. People do crazy shit just to get that throne, just to be on that throne, just to put their two butt cheeks or have someone related to their family's butt cheeks on that throne so they can rule King's Landing and rule the seven kingdoms. And it's insane to see the moves that are going on here. We also got Aegon, who is escaping. I mean, the whole episode, as well as a Where's Waldo episode, Where's Aegon episode, that are trying to find him throughout the entire King's Landing there and trying to see where he might be. We get the two Eric with an E, Eric with an A, knights who are sent out by Otto Hightower to go after Aegon. And of course, we see them battling each other throughout, which is really interesting, kind of giving you a bit of a foreshadowing for the civil war that's coming. Eric with the A is going to be on the side of the queen. Eric with the E is going to be on the side of Rhaenyra, of the blacks there, which is Rhaenyra's side. But this is the Green Council. These are the Greens. This is what they're known for in the book. The Greens, Alicent's side is the Greens. Otto Hightower, all of them are the Greens as part of this. And we see that Otto wants to rule with that iron hand. He wants to control and find Aegon so he can manipulate him to send his forces to go after Rhaenyra. We get this meeting in the council with Alicent sitting there and seeing all her, trying to maybe find some commiseration. Let's not forget, for all the judgment of Alicent, and certainly I've given Alicent some hard times on our Geek Buddies reviews, she doesn't have a friend in the kingdom. She really doesn't. Not even Criston Cole. She's basically using Criston Cole's anger towards Rhaenyra, because that must have been one incredible night of sex for him to still be so goddamn bitter about it all these years later. And I think he has a little bit of an attraction to her as a connective tissue to Rhaenyra. I mean, how many dudes who get rejected by women try to go after their best friends or whatever to try to maintain a connection to that girl, because that's who they really love. And it's a terrible situation, because sadly, I don't say all's fair in love and war, but all happens in love and war for sure. So we see that with Alicent, but she doesn't have a friend on the council. They've been planning behind her back, and they try to stroke her hair and say, oh, we didn't want to bother you with these things. It's like, well, boy, what? And so she's very clear that she's upset that they've been planning all these things without her. That being said, she doesn't want to stop Aegon being king. So it kind of is okay with the end result, even though it may seem a bit nefarious in the ways they're going about it. We see Criston Cole be a little bitch and kill Lord Beesbury from behind. If you're grabbing a man who just told you he was 76 years old from behind, an old man, and slamming him into the desk, you're a bitch. You're a little bitch. And that's what he is throughout this entire episode. Even when he fights Eric with an A, I don't care. He's still a bitch. So that being said, we see Aemon as well, who is kind of caught up in this idea of wanting to be king himself. He tells later, because later on, Criston and Aemon go after Aegon as well. So that's the two forces. The queen sends Aemon and Criston to go after Aegon, and the two, Eric and Eric go after Aegon through Otto Hightower. But we see Daemon, we get to see how, Aemon, we get to see how Aemon is himself talking about how the fact that he wants to be king, that he should be king. I mean, it's the second son syndrome, isn't it? Or the second child syndrome. It's the Jan Brady syndrome. She deserves, why does Marcia get all the attention? Marcia doesn't even need all the attention. What about me? And that's basically where that's coming from. And Aemon saying, I've been studying the histories. I'm not a rapey weirdo like my brother. And certainly where they find him, when they eventually find him, he is on the more nefarious side of things. And we find out that there's kids who fight each other in pits. That was a really tough scene, to be honest with you. All the other stuff, these are adults fucking with each other. You can handle it. But the idea that the depravity of humanity would be so low in a place like that, where they would raise children to fight each other for sport, and I think there's a message the show is sending by talking about that, by showing that the abuse that the kingdom is turning a blind eye to, or is somehow complicit in, by not enforcing it more strongly, which Mysaria brings up to Otto a little bit later, about that lets this go on. And certainly there's probably worse that goes on in those areas that the kingdom. So for all their highfalutin ideals and for all their ideas of being, better and what have you, at the end of the day, it's how you treat the people who are your subjects that really kind of says who you are as a king or as a queen. And certainly we're seeing that they allow this kind of stuff to happen so they can all make some money off it and grease the wheels. It's a really ugly thing for sure. And to be honest with you, I don't know if that stuff was going on while Daemon was in charge of the City Watch. Maybe. Certainly Daemon, no stranger to depraved things in his own way. And speaking of I don't want to say that. Speaking of interesting moments that are sexual related, Larys Strong here kind of skulking around the castle, kind of making himself known, being involved, seeing certain things happening. That one lord that doesn't bend the knee, he eventually gets him caught before he can escape through the gates, and he is hung there for everybody to see. He wants to play Otto against Alliscent. He even tries to woo Otto to his side to maybe give him information from Alliscent. So you don't know what side he is on. And then you have that weird scene. And look, I say weird because I don't have a foot fetish. I don't want to judge anybody or kink shame anybody who might have a foot fetish, but that's a certain decision by the creators and by the showrunners to show someone who is a pretty nefarious, conniving, essentially connecting his foot fetish to someone who is depraved might do, or who has a low moral compass might do. So a bit of a misstep there, I think, in my opinion, but whatever. It's that time. So, and it's set in that period. So you're going to get that kind of things, stuff. But the Rhaenys situation is such an interesting subplot throughout the whole episode as well. Having her being locked in, her seeing the servants going down, including Talia, who is Alicent's handmaiden. And of course, Talia signaling Mysaria by those candles in the window. So clearly this web of spies there in the Red Keep is extensive, and a lot of people are involved. And certainly we saw her at the end of the last episode giving information to Mysaria when she went over there in the hooded cloak. But here Rhaenys is locked in, and then eventually Alicent gets around to coming to her to talk to her about the situation, and she basically plays the woman card with her, saying, "Oh, you should have been the queen, and it was your husband's overeagerness, and look what Rhaenyra did to your kids, and shouldn't you be connected to be a part of this and help this happen?" And I love that Rhaenys gives her credit, Alicent credit, for being intelligent, kind of like what Otto did, I think, an episode or two ago, giving Alicent credit, saying, "I didn't know you had this in you." Here's Rhaenys saying, "You're an intelligent woman, you're a smart woman, but you're not aware that what you're talking about, what you've done with your life, is you don't even realize that you're in the prison that you claim that I am in. You're in service to Otto, to Aegon, to all the men in your life." And certainly later, Larys having him jack himself off or masturbate to her feet. She is in essence willing to pay these prices to these men in order to put her children on the throne, in order to maintain her power, in order to even win this battle of wits with her own father. So certainly Rhaenys calls her out and says, you are so unaware of the fact that you're just building a window in your prison. So don't play that feminism card with me, young lady. So a great back and forth that shows you how two women can function given their station in this kingdom. Rhaenys, of course, older, been through the wars, understands the situation. Alicent, somewhat, at the behest of her father, forced into this marriage, forced to have these kids and all this situation. So you do have to create a little bit of understanding for Alicent and her situation. But then again, Alicent does some stuff to keep her in line for power. She could easily just be like, fuck this, I don't want to do this anymore, I'm out of here. She might be risking her life to do that, but she could absolutely now at this point abdicate, say Rhaenyra is the queen, and step aside and let Rhaenyra be queen and take her kids and roll off to a nice estate and hang out and have fun and live out the rest of her days. Maybe find a husband who will treat her well. Viserys was fine. Maybe an age-appropriate husband there for her to enjoy and what have you. So there's a lot here that I think is interesting to explore with the Alicent character as well. And speaking of Rhaenys, because we were just talking about that, after that scene, I mean, her being ushered out by Eric with an E as they go through the town, and then eventually she gets split from Eric and gets herded, so to speak, because all the townspeople being herded because the high towers, they love a presentation, herded there to the ceremony and the crowning of Aegon, and then her coming through the floor with her dragon. I mean, this is one of the best moments of the season for me, one of the best endings, I would say, of an episode for me, coming right through that floor and saying what's what, and doesn't even say a word, but her non-verbal confrontation of that entire family is so awesome, considering the conversation she had with Alicent earlier. She is a woman who will command her space, and she will do what she wants to do, and she has the power to do, and she's so smart at doing that. And so you see her there with Meleys looking out at everybody, and of course Alicent stands in front of her son and is ready, closes her eyes, is ready to get burnt to death. And you think just maybe they're going to veer from the books and have her say Dracarys, and everyone's going to get burnt to a crisp. But she doesn't. And I was listening to the showrunner afterwards in that video they do after the episode, and he said people may not like the decision, but from mother to mother, she did not want to kill her or burn her children as her son was just burnt, supposedly. Of course, she doesn't know that he's still alive in a fire himself. So maybe in that moment, there's a little bit of sympathy from her mother to mother, not wanting to kill her and her entire family there and burn them to a crisp. She's obviously going to go tell Rhaenyra what the deal is and what have you. So a great moment there of Rhaenys and her power and the way she strides the dragon and the way that she doesn't have to say anything. She's basically, by not saying anything and sitting there astride her dragon and probably killed hundreds of people, unfortunately, she is saying that I own my own power. You tried to imprison me. You tried to make me scared. You tried to manipulate me. Here is true power. Here is my revenge. Here is me making you cower to me. And so I loved that moment of retaking her power, reclaiming her power and her agency, and then flying off to tell Rhaenyra. So clearly there is a lot that is going to happen here as we go into the season finale next week. It's going to be, from what I saw the preview, it's going to be dragon heavy. There's a lot of dragons all over that preview, and it even ends with a dragon's roar. So certainly we might be losing some dragons on this side of things. And just to let you know, on one side, on the green side, which is Team Aegon, you've got Sunfire, Vhagar, and Dreamfire. Those are the dragons on that side. On the black side, you've got Syrax, Caraxes, Vermax, and Meleys, with Laenor dead. Sea Smoke is riderless as well, and we don't know who Baela's dragon is or Rhaena's dragon status as well. So there may be more dragons that can kind of counter the big dragon, which is Vhagar, and how this all plays out. And also, Helaena is really interesting too. I didn't want to leave this spoiler review without talking about Helaena. I thought Helaena was an interesting character to throw in. Of course, she's Aegon's wife. She's his sister. She's the one that's been prognosticating stuff. We see her talking to the twins. As I said, this is a spoiler review, so you'll see what happens to the twins. But her, knitting the spider there, that means something, the spider. And then also her saying that there's a beast beneath the boards. Now, that could mean that it's Otto Hightower, her own father, who is trying to, attack Alicent from behind. It could be Aegon, who is the beast that is beneath the boards of his human body, and that beast now is king. God knows what he's going to do now with that kind of license. Or it could have been a more literal thing where Rhaenys, with her dragon Meleys, coming through the floor there, to kind of mess with them on the dais. So number of things, and it could be something she's prognosticating later on. We don't know. There's a lot with her in the books for sure. She is an interesting character with a lot of prognostications. Pay attention to her words when you're watching these shows, ladies and gentlemen. They matter for sure. So now, as we leave this episode, Aegon is king. Otto is remaining hand of the king. Alliscent in that in that carriage ride over there to the ceremony, trying to plead with Aegon to accept these things. She gives him the blade. He's worried about he's saying, my dad, that's bullshit. My dad never wanted me, never liked me. There's no way he made me king. Then she gives him the dagger here, the Valyrian steel dagger there, which of course was going to be used for many years to come, to kind of symbolize the fact that he is accepted by his father and that his father wanted him to be king. And then we have Kristen Cole, who's now the king of the Kingsguard, the leader of the Kingsguard there. So very interesting stuff as we see all these pieces kind of moving together. Certainly, I think next episode we're going to spend more time with Rhaenyra and Daemon. At least that's what that teased, and see how the Blacks are reacting. Because remember, Aegon is crowned before Rhaenyra even knows that her own father is dead. And this is essentially an usurping, a coup that is happening here. And they've been staging this coup for a while. Where have I heard about a coup being staged behind the scenes? Oh, where have I heard that before? So very interesting stuff that they play that out here. I love how they fleshed out the events of the book in this series, and I love that they make it topical to stuff that almost happened in our own world, in our own country. So I love that they're having that play out in the way that they do here. So really great stuff. Fantastic writing. Thought the music cues were fantastic in this episode. Some really great acting. That Rhaenys Alliscent scene was good. Alicent calling out her father. I didn't even mention that. Alicent and Otto going at it was a fantastic scene. Her saying, like, I understand now what you did to me. I understand. I couldn't even know my own mind because you kept putting me in situations and forcing me to do certain things. Well, now I know my own mind and I know what I want to do. So that's going to be an interesting battle as this progresses between Otto and Alicent, because Otto called out Alicent for her affection for Rhaenyra and wondering if that's going to affect things with them. So very interesting stuff to play out here over the next, when we get to the finale. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And the Geek Buddies might be doing a live finale review of this one for sure. So pay attention, or look out for that for sure. And of course, look out for our review coming up maybe in a day or two here on the Outlaw Nation as well. All right, well, let me know what you thought about it. Did you love it? Did you like it? Were you down with it? Did you dig it all? Did you enjoy what we got here from this episode? Did it get you excited for what we're going to be getting in the finale? If I missed anything, let me know down there. I tried to cover everything as I could because I'm just reacting to it right after having watched it and spoiler reviewing right after having watched it. Let's just say the Aegon and Aemon thing for the to be king, that's going to be lasting for quite some time. So it's going to be very interesting to see how those two circle each other, because clearly Aemon wants that crown, and we'll see how Aegon gets consumed, if he does, by that crown as the show goes along into next season. And I'm sure there's going to be a next season, for God's sakes. This has been a fantastic first season. All right. Anyway, let me know down there in the comment section below. Hit a like on this video, share it on your social media. Remember to subscribe to the channel as well. Hit that subscribe button, hit that bell button so you see when we're dropping all the content. Share it on your social media. Subscribe to me on the Outlaw Nation there on Twitch, all one word. And if you want to support everything we got going on here on the Outlaw Nation, head on over to the Patreon, patreon.com/John Rocha. All right, y'all take care of yourselves, be well, and look for our review with the Geek Buddies coming up in just a couple of days, as I said, for House of the Dragon. Take care, and I'll talk to you soon.